So we are going to be discussing fast channels. I know they've hardly gotten a mention. The topic is moving fast in the European streaming ecosystem. I'd like to invite my panel to come up and join us here. Jean-David Blanc, the founder and CEO of Molotov. Also, Olivier Gellet, who is Executive Vice President and International General Manager for Pluto TV. Cédric Dufour, who is the CEO and President of Rakuten. Also, Olivier Cara, the Global Solution Marketing Director for Broadpeak. And Jennifer Batty, the European Head of Content Acquisitions for Samsung TV Plus. So we've got a few questions we kind of need answering over the next little while. Is fast only hype? How's it doing in the United States compared to Europe? How content owners can get the most out of the potential of fast? The long-term potential of what's described as passive linear TV viewing. And there's so much choice on fast channels. I don't think it could be anything at all passive. And of course, the innovations made possible through fast and the various advertising opportunities as well. So let's get things underway, shall we? I'll start off, I think, with Jennifer. Are we going to reach a point, do you think, where fast is, alongside perhaps a VOD, is going to dominate the landscape above the existing streamers and maybe the linear channels? Does it have that potential? I think if you speak, they will come on.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Perfect. I think so. Thank you very much, first of all, for having me join. Having me join you here in Brussels. This is one of my first sort of speaking opportunities as Samsung TV Plus in Europe. So it's very exciting.
You've just moved, haven't you, from the last few months?
I have, yes. I've moved from the equator to London, so a little bit chillier, but very exciting. So just in respect to your question, I think that fast and AVOD, we're in a really exciting opportunity within the media landscape right now. And I think from a Samsung perspective, we see fast, AVOD, linear, SVOD, BVOD, TVOD, any other sort of acronyms that you can come up with, sitting very nicely and complementing each other. And that's the way that we sort of see it from the future. As a manufacturer of televisions, it really, for us, how do we deliver the best engagement, the best experience for somebody who owns a Samsung TV, a Samsung mobile, a Samsung tablet. So I think that, as the industry evolves and grows in the fast AVOD world, I think we'll see everybody sitting very comfortably next to each other.
I'm always intrigued by the TV manufacturers' involvement in this. Even when we had 300 channels, you were still happy to just, take a plug-in module, go there with the local cable operator. But you want to be that operator now as well.
I think it's really interesting. Samsung is in an incredible position. We've been the #1 manufacturer of televisions for 16 years, which is, I just learned that. I'm learning all sorts of interesting tech things. And in Europe, we have 45% market share of smart televisions. Samsung was the first manufacturer to produce a smart TV about 10, 11, 12 years ago. So it really is, Samsung TV Plus has sort of come and has evolved from what else can Samsung do for
Is it the
consumers?
new thing in the way that, you go back, 40 years and it was NICAM digital stereo, which all TVs had to have. And then later on, it became widescreen, it became 4K. And now it's
8K.
Taking maybe if the European Commission let us do them. I guess the question is, is this your new thing to sit alongside the connected aspects and the smart TV aspects to actually be at least a publisher of channels?
Very much so. And it's not just about fast channels or AVOD. We're also publisher of games, podcasts, you name it. We, from a Samsung perspective, we want to have, it's about the customer. it's making sure they have the best experience when they come onto a Samsung device.
Okay. Olivier, what were your thoughts? Obviously you would like to see Pluto grow and grow and grow, but where will Pluto and the other fast channels sit within the European landscape as a whole?
Well, first of all, if you just going back a little bit in the history, Pluto TV was launched on April 1st, 2014, so 8.5 years ago. And probably at that time, back then, no one was expecting FAST, which didn't exist, to be successful. You know, everyone was foreseeing the future of TV being subscription only, being subscription free. People will get rid of advertising, pay subscription to not to have ads, and obviously it would be, everyone was predicting the death of linear business. So that was 8 years ago. I think if you fast forward to today, and you look at Pluto, we are now live in 33 countries and territories. We have 72 million monthly active users across the world. And I think what is quite exciting is that, you know, for a long time, people were thinking FAST is only a US thing, because obviously pay TV is very expensive in the US, as you know. And in Europe, we have a very strong free TV offering, whether you go in the UK, in Germany, in France. The result is that the KPIs that we see on Pluto TV, whether you're in France, in Germany, in the UK, or in the US, are quite similar. So the watch time, the engagement KPIs are the same. So which shows actually one thing: FAST is not like a US thing. There's a delay between the adoption of FAST in the US versus Europe, but it is like, and you know, we have all the KPIs at Pluto. We see the performance of each country. It is going at the same pace that it was going in the US. So my prediction is that FAST will be massive in Europe, and is already really big. And it's pretty simple because, you know, the people, like, they shift the conception from traditional TV to internet. And obviously, in the world of digital, in the world of in this content jungle that we are now having, it's good to bring like the lean back experience, to bring this linear experience by creating channels for specific audiences. And I think that's what makes the success of
Is it also a natural reaction, if you like, between, you sort of went towards this in your comments just now? We had Netflix, we had Amazon Prime, we had others, none of which had any advertising. And so it's almost like the kickback, if you like, the natural reaction to, well, let's have something which will bring us some of the style of the Amazons and the Netflixes, with a different set of content, and make sure that there's advertising in there for those people who aren't necessarily interested, or, you know, I say, can't afford the subscription options.
Well, obviously, you know, there's obviously a lot of new subscription services, including Paramount Plus from Paramount. And I think, you know, SVOD is extremely successful. But I think what makes FAST different is two things. The first one is the watching behavior that we are offering, which is this lean back experience. People don't want to spend 20, 30 minutes each time they want to be entertained. And I think that's what FAST and what Pluto is trying to solve is the paradox of choice in a way. And the second thing is ad supporting. I mean, advertising has funded the best of TV content for decades. Why should this business model completely disappear? It's just like a transition. It used to fund like traditional TV, and now it goes to digital. So it's just, for me, it's just an evolution of the business.
Jean-David, the prospects for fast TV, I guess particularly in the French-speaking market, and also the possibilities of local language fast TV services. I guess that Olivier can talk about how Pluto is regionalizing later on as well, but important in any market simply to have the local language, and nowhere more so than in France.
Yes, local language and local content. I mean, but I can't agree more with what Olivier was just saying. I mean, first of all, advertising is a source of revenue for content production, always been, and it's a huge business. And the fast channels and AVOD in general drive those revenues into the business. So it's normal that the streaming services in general get a share of that revenue rather than let it go to either YouTube or Facebook, get into the production industry, and then part of finance that. So that's for the business. As the linear TV and the fast channels, it's for us, it's always existed with the traditional channels, because fast is just an linear channel that doesn't have the same name. For the user, in the user perspective, it's the same consumption than watching a traditional TV. They don't want to choose; they just turn on and then they let it go and watch things one after the other. So it's two different things. One is business model, which is advertising going into the streaming business, AVOD, fast, whatever, and one is related to content discovery, and that solves that.
I turn now to Cedric, and I guess in many ways you'll agree with what's been said before, but give me the Rakuten take of how you're putting your fast channels alongside some of the other things you do.
So we clearly see a strong appetite from our users for fast channels. At Rakuten TV, we have not only fast and AVOD, we also have TVOD and a small SVOD service. So we have a quite a good vision of what our users are consuming, what kind of content, when and how, and a good analysis of the behavior. And clearly, fast is the highest growth we can see on our platform. We really see the fast offer as complementary to our TVOD store and SVOD, not replacing, but just complementary. Sometimes we are talking to different users. Some of our users are just fan of blockbusters and latest release, just interested in the TVOD stores. Some others just interested in the fast and AVOD. But more and more, we can see cross-usage of all these services with the same people, sometimes watching the latest Maverick, for example, and the day after AVOD content with their kids, and the day after channels on a different device also in the metro or elsewhere. So clearly it's growing. It will not replace. It's super complementary to the other services. That's the way we see this service.
Out of interest, now how much cross-promotion do you do between, say, TVOD, SVOD, and the fast services? You know, do you have sort of the end of a TVOD transaction as, oh, you might like this particular fast channel?
The challenge we have is that we need to educate users and we need to explain the value proposition, because this value proposition is quite wide, but sometimes difficult to understand. And also because the content is very different. Obviously, the content available in the TVOD store has nothing to do with the content we have in AVOD and subscription. So we have this education role to explain, maybe to simplify, and also to explain to the user how it works. So we are working with our UX team on simplifying the customer journey.
I think it's my idea for Fast Channel, which is one which like constantly updates with shows on what all these various systems and platforms actually are. Olivier Carré, you must, from within the technology world, sometimes get if you like, an early view on what people are planning to do and what the demand is based on simply the conversations you're having with your clients. What's sort of the outlook right now?
So yeah, I mean, before, just wanted to add a bit more on in what is happening in terms of market dynamics on this market. What we see actually, at least in Europe, is that fast and AVOD are coming at a time when the spending from an end user standpoint are becoming very sensitive. There's been, skyrocketing inflation in many countries, and people are now choosing much more carefully, the type of package they're subscribing to. So this is, of course, from that standpoint, giving advantage to fast and AVOD. During the last 2 days, we've been talking about, CTV fragmentation, OS fragmentation, content fragmentation, but there is also some fragmentation, in terms of RPU and end user spending. And from that standpoint, again, AVOD, any ad-supported service, which is completely free, solves that problem right away, because suddenly it becomes available to everybody. But anyway, that's just something I had in mind I wanted to share. But to answer your question, yes, we are, we have more than 150 operators that where our technology is deployed today in the world. And to be transparent, today there are a lot of questions. And sometimes it's not really about the our scope, but it's a lot on Okay, let's assume we take some fast channels. How many fast channels are we going to start with? How are we going to be? How are they going to be positioned in our existing portal? Should they have a dedicated app, or should I merge them into my existing lineup? Should I treat them differently from what I'm doing right now? So all these questions, we're basically providing, the technology stack, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible, starting with a service. I think this is the step 0, to make it accessible and deployable as fast as possible in terms of time to market. And then we can do some fine tuning, some optimization.
Make an interesting point about services that people have. I guess we're not really yet to see it. In previous conferences over the last couple of years, many of them online, would have heard about stacking of subscriptions and just adding more. And I think there was a comment made here where some markets have more subscriptions than there are people, such as the appetite. And we just don't know yet which services people are going to drop, if indeed they're going to drop any, because I was at a conference last week and the argument was, TV is so resilient to economic turmoil because it's a cheaper night out than going to the cinema with your wife, your 2 children, and buying all the overpriced popcorn. Jennifer, when somebody is switching on their Samsung TV, and I guess it's sort of the same on many sets, you see a collection of icons, don't you, these days? Where do I then find Samsung TV Plus relative to, I guess, regional and international services? I guess you push it up a little bit, but then how do I find fast channels within that?
So it depends really on the model that you have, television model that you have, but the sort of the newer ones.
So it's different in 2016, 2017, 18, 19, and 20, so on.
2021, 22, yes.
Right.
So, but you will find Samsung TV Plus is on the home screen. And I think just building on from sort of some of the comments that people have said, it's really interesting because there are so many options out there that one of the things from a Samsung point of view is about discoverability and what can we do to make things easier, because you might subscribe to 5 or 6 different SVOD services, or you might have Pluto or Rakuten also there, but it's like, where is all the content? So that's one of the things that from a Samsung perspective, we're working on. We've introduced a universal guide where you can see all of the different options that are there. We highlight specific content depending on what the app is, whether it's Samsung TV Plus or any of our partners. So we're trying to help the audience find the content so that they're not, you don't come home and turn your television on and go, oh my, click, and then throw your switcher away and go storming outside because you can't find anything to watch because you spent so much time trying to find it. So we're trying to introduce that. But once you get into Samsung TV Plus, again, it's, I think all of the on-demand services and the fast channels, you have an EPG. We have it specified by different genres, different areas, so that it's easy for people to find. If you want to watch a movie, you know where to go within the EPG. We do highlight just exactly what any other television channel would do.
Presumably, though, if I'm watching Samsung TV Plus, I've had a good time, I've seen a great show, and then I think there was that great show on Pluto I was watching the other day. How easy and how nearby is it to get from a Samsung TV Plus set of channels to a Pluto sets of TV channels, Rakuten, to Molotov, whatever. It's BBC One and BBC Two are next to each other on the EPG. I would kind of expect something similar for fast channels.
So we have partnerships with Pluto and with Rakuten where we have their integrated apps within the television and the mobiles. It's very easy. We want to make it easy for the consumer, so it's not.
Amazon Prime told me that watching tennis was easy, but the change of courts I had to go out and in again and out and in again. It was a nightmare.
We're a lot easier.
Okay.
It is about the accessibility for the end user, and it is about how many clicks do you have to go when you're having to switch between apps.
And you're conscious of that, of minimizing the number.
Very much so. And again, I personally would love to keep everybody within Samsung TV Plus, but as a Samsung business, we look at all of our partners and seeing how that we build the business across all the areas.
You're in a similar position, aren't you, to a Sky or a Canal Plus, of being both channel provider and also operator of the platform, and you don't want to be seen to be putting your own channels as being favorites, however popular they might be.
Yes, and I would get in trouble for the answer I'd like to say, but I won't. But look, again, it's about complementing. It's about having complementary services. We don't want to have the same content on Samsung TV Plus that's on Pluto or Rakuten. We want to be bringing in new content for the consumer so that they have something different to watch. And I think that it's important as we look at the evolution of FAST and AVOD. You'll see all of us will start going, more exclusivity, stronger, building up the IPs. I think people previously would think about FAST channels and just think, oh, it's all old content. It's really not. Within the UK, we just launched the Jamie Oliver channel. We bring America's Got Talent, Project One Way, a number American Idol from the US within a couple of days of their airing. These are all FAST channels. We've just launched RTVE in Spain, so we'll have the World Cup available within Samsung TV Plus. So there's a lot of, the content is getting stronger and is getting better. And I think you'll see that will continue to grow along with exclusivity.
Okay, Olivier, it's interesting for you at Pluto because you alluded to, you also have Paramount Plus as well. So I guess what are the advantages and disadvantages to you almost of your own channels of where you're able to place content?
I mean, the first thing as a Paramount company, we are building an ecosystem. And the ecosystem is not only a streaming ecosystem. We're still very big in the broadcast business, in the US with obviously CBS, but MTV, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, and we have a lot of over Paramount Network channels and so on across Europe. So Channel 5 in the UK. So we are actually being in broadcast, and we build this ecosystem across broadcast business, paid streaming business with Paramount Plus, and a completely free streaming destination with Pluto TV. Obviously, you're probably gonna ask me a question, why don't you put everything in one product, which is usually the question I do have. And there's a reason why we are taking this direction. We believe that the strong part of the value proposition of Pluto TV is being entirely free. There's no hidden cost. When the users get in, he knows what he gets. He would not have to put a credit card for anything. And that's a strong user proposition. While when you go on Paramount Plus, yes, it is the most premium show. It is the Tulsa-King, the Yellowstone of this world. And obviously it is under the paywall, like, on the pay TV was also the biggest and the most premium content. So it is like a lot of, again, similarities between what TV was doing. And that's what we do at Paramount. We want to have like a play in the free streaming market and a play in the paid streaming market. The market studies are showing that by 2024, half of the revenue will come from advertising on the streaming market. So, we're pretty well established to be a leader in those two markets as Paramount. And just to go back on the on also more precisely on your question, what makes a difference probably is being part of Paramount, which has decades of entertainment, iconic brands. I mentioned a lot of them, the Paramount Studios, the CBS, the Showtime. We own this content, and it's probably one of the richest library in the world, which makes obviously our channels on Pluto very unique. We can obviously we build like a tailor-made windowing strategy within the company, deciding what goes where, and it doesn't mean that everything will go first on P Plus or go first on Pluto or go first on broadcast. It's a moving piece. But I think we have a big advantage is that we have this huge library, and we are producing for, I think, 16 billion per year in new content. So that's something that obviously we can leverage for streaming.
But the new content is predominantly going on Paramount Plus, and Pluto is often for the archive. Although I mentioned earlier the little thing you did with Star Trek Discovery in the UK market and maybe in other markets too.
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, on Sunday we were streaming live the MTV Music Awards, which is, was a big hit. We had like a massive traffic on our MTV Music channel. So, and it was streamed live. Last year we did the worldwide premiere in Europe of Star Trek Discovery Season 4. It was on Pluto and it was not unpaid. We do a lot of free TV premiere as well now. So going directly to paid streaming to Pluto TV without going on to free TV. It was the case again for Star Trek Discovery Season 1 and 2, or 30 Reasons Why, which was on Pluto. And I think this is like the kind of things that we're doing. So You said something which is right. I mean, we've been in business for a while, and usually people was thinking fast, AVOD, it's only content from the 50s or the 60s. That's wrong. That is, I mean, it is also fresh content. Could be original content. Yes, when it comes to the top scripted premium series, they will always be under the paywall probably because the production costs are massive, but there is a lot of fresh content on Pluto.
And the branding is interesting. I get you're calling it Pluto TV as opposed to Paramount Pluto TV in the same way that Comedy Central or MTV or Bet have their own brands. You're happy for it to be distinctive, and then maybe the content itself linking back to the Paramount Global family.
The beauty is that of FAST is that we are creating new brands with our own brand. So we launched MTV Dating, which is the home of all the dating shows from MTV. We created Comedy Central made in Germany, a channel dedicated to the German humor. For example,
24 hours a day.
Yeah, everyone is laughing when I'm talking about German humor. I live in Germany, so I can't speak about the German humor. But usually people think that there's no humor in Germany, but it's a very funny channel. But we're doing a lot of that, rethinking the notion of linear channels, using the brand and creating new ones for a specific audience.
Jean-David, I guess that for Molotov, you're kind of it's a gateway, isn't it, to lots of different content, be it some free-to-air sorts and some of the fast channels and AVOD content as well.
Yes, we call this business aggregation. We aggregate channels, traditional channels that people can relate to, that people know, channels that are super old, and modern channels or services. We're seen as a commodity now. People they want to get rid of their cable box or watch content or any connected device, phones, tablet, laptop, whatsoever. So we're this commodity with the new antenna, I would say, cable box, virtual cable box.
But they're still willing to pay for some
So
things as well.
Depending on the channel, if they want to watch a channel which is a paid TV channel, they pay. If they want to watch free TV channel, they don't. So the idea is to give the user this commodity, this service, to enable them to access television and television content, whether it's free or pay, linear or non-linear, which makes the job very difficult because you have to aggregate different content with different rights, with different windows. Some are linear, non-linear, and you add on top of that functionalities that people of the 21st century wouldn't live without, which is pause, start from the beginning. I've seen my kids watching a TV, a live TV, and they went to the screen and they wanted to stop and change, start again. This is normal today. When we were young, when we missed the beginning of a movie, we couldn't start from the beginning. Now it's a normality. So we have to enable these functionalities, and therefore the rights that go with them, the technology that goes with it, so that's what we're building.
Yes. Cedric, with Rakuten, I think some of, rather like Olivier, you're also producing some original content as well. What works?
So what works? Originally, the original contents we were producing were mainly sports documentaries. Sports because sport is part of the DNA of Rakuten. We were sponsored of the FC Barcelona team. We are still sponsored of the and partner of the Golden State Warriors for the NBA of the Davis Cup. So it had always been an important topic, and that's why it was relevant. It was normal for us to have to produce our content following this line. Now we extended to different formats. It's not only documentary. We've released recently a series. It's an adventure reality series with a very famous Spanish presenter. Last week, I think we launched another documentary with Iniesta. So it's not only sport, but now many different topics, which is also one differentiation we have is that this original content is part of our AVOD and FAST proposition. So it's available exclusively on our platform. That's why it's a way also for us to attract new users, because if they want to see the latest documentary with Iniesta, it's only available on Rakuten TV. So that's part of the specificity of our content.
Does it work for you? And I'm going to ask our other programmers this one too. Does the content that you're producing, which appears on Fast, does it enhance the Fast service? I guess there's this overlap, isn't there, between advertising supported VOD and the Fast channels? And I'm kind of wondering if Fast channels, if there wasn't such a thing as a VOD, whether they'd work on their own.
So there is a part of it is overlap, but the behavior and the context of when people are consuming these two products, I would say, is really different. The fact this lean back attitude where people don't want to choose, as Olivier was saying, they don't want to spend too much time to choose their program. So they trust you. That's why the notion of trust is really key, because if they want to watch this channel, they need to trust you. It means that you need to build your channel in a very relevant way, because people are not watching the same content on a Saturday evening, a Monday morning. So the scheduling and the programming are really key. That's really important to get the trust of your audience. So that's really essential to bring in. So some part of the content of our original content are in our channels, and part of it is also available on the AVOD store, not store part.
Jean-David, do you think that Fast channels can or could work on their own, away from the complete ecosystem?
Yes, absolutely. But it's funny because we're reinventing the wheel here. I mean, fast channels existed when the TV started. It's just linear channels funded by advertising. What's new here? The technology is just the problems you were saying were the same when it was about channels. If you build a crappy channel with bad programming on Saturday night, you wouldn't get the audience. So it's the same the same issues. It's nothing new as original content. Free TV channels always had also their original content. So I don't see why it wouldn't exist on fast channels also.
I guess in a way it's classic sort of how you start a TV channel. I think of somewhere like say ProSieben in Germany, one of Germany's top commercial channels these days, making so many original shows. 20, 30 years ago, they were showing 20-year-old American reruns. But the channel has progressed, and with the beginnings of the original content that you guys are bringing on, we're seeing as almost a repetition of that, of building a fast channel the way that a linear channel has been built in the past. Olivier?
Well, I think there is one big difference. I would disagree on what you said. I think I agree that it's the same. What I think make the biggest problem on television is the business model. To make money, you needed to have a lot of audience at the same time watching. That's the way, and it's still the way you make money. So what happened over the last 10, 15 years, you saw a lot of niche channels disappearing from the TV landscape because there was no business model. When you run a digital business, you can monetize actually a channel with 20,000 fans of K-pop, for example. So there is a business model because the way of monetizing is completely different. It's CPM based. It's not based on audience at a specific time. So I think that changed a lot the way you can program channels, because from a sudden, we are able to bring back content, and bring back content to fans because there is a model and we can monetize that. And TV can't do that. I mean, if I take the example of, and I'm sure it's successful on most of the other platform, Western. I mean, we're really successful with Western channels. So, and Western used to be a primetime show. It used to be at 9 p.m. in every single 15 years ago was one of the most popular genres. Did the fans disappear? No, they're still there. Are they frustrated? Yes, they are, because even on SVOD services, you need to click 5-10 times to find the category. We bring a 24/7 channel for those fans. And we can monetize that. And I think that's the game changer.
Jennifer, did that work for you, being a TV manufacturer, so that the fast channel component, does it only work for you because you've got the other things around it, or could it work on its own?
I think it definitely can work on its own. I mean, it's exactly as everyone's saying. Fast channels they're not different than linear channels. It's a 24-hour channel. It's just what are we putting on there and how are we scheduling it and that. And I think one of the benefits of fast channels is that we, exactly as Olivia was saying, we have the ability to bring back content people want to watch. They've missed these shows. They love them. They watch them. You have people that come in and turn into a Baywatch channel. And 5 years ago, if you said to me that I'd be sitting on a stage talking about Baywatch, I would think you were absolutely nuts. People want to watch it. There's a huge demand for it. So having the fast channels and being digital, it gives us a new reliving of the content. It's the tapping into the libraries and being able to bring back content that younger generations may not have seen, but their parents watched, and they're like, "Oh, this is great," and they have a good laugh and they enjoy it, and they come back and they watch it again. And it goes to that lean in and lean back viewing experience. Very much. When you come into Samsung TV Plus, you have fast channels. They cover multiple genres, multiple specific IPs. You have entertainment channels that are very much like a traditional older school linear channel.
How do you schedule them? Because if you've got a fast channel, which is, I don't know, to pick one of Olivier's examples, running old episodes of Bonanza, say, I don't know if that's one of yours or not, but it's a Western. Do you want to watch is it scheduled in such a way that when you tune in at the same time next week, you get an episode which is later than the one you've just seen previously, or are they going to be jumping all over the place because they're showing one after the other?
So just to answer the other one, but just the fast next to AVOD. So we also have an AVOD layer. So depending if you're somebody, and we have a significant amount of content in there. So if you're somebody that wants to come home and just turn the TV on and just watch anything, we have that. Or if you specifically looking for something, you have that. So I think fast and AVOD complement, but can also live very much on their own. In respect to scheduling, it is very interesting, and it is a slight challenge when you have a single IP, but it is about ensuring that whenever the viewer comes in, that there's specific times that new episodes are coming on. So it's, so that it becomes repeat habit for them. So it may be every day at 6 p.m. a new episode, or we start that, but it's continuing adding and building on to the episodes.
I guess ideally you have like 25-hour-long episodes running on a 24-hour channel, which can then slot in place.
We look at a repeat rate factor in there just because we know people don't come in 25 hours. We'd love them to come in 24 hours a day, but we know that they come back in.
They need to sleep at some point. Olivier Cara, one of the other advantages of fast is, of course, the ability to pop in that advertising, which obviously is the financing, which keeps them going. That's a very key advantage, isn't it?
Right. So, I mean, Fast, was born into a pure OTT world. And with that comes, the capability to do targeted advertising natively. And this is, I think, a fundamental opportunity, which I think is not fully leveraged yet. Of course, this is, I think, something that should be leveraged by default. But there are ways to go a bit further in terms of optimization, If you go into the personalization, for instance, there are also ways where you can start maybe optimizing, the ad exposure that the end users are maybe start to use, be exposed with. You have people who have been used to watch content without a single ad by paying subscription packages, and now we're shifting quite drastically to an AVOD and fast way of watching content. And if there is no way of making sure that people are not overexposed, or there is no ad duplication or that kind of things, that could be impactful, I think, for the end users. But yeah, I think this is something that we enable, that we facilitate this ad targeting.
And do we all have, David, is Jean-David, are you having, is targeted advertising something you're either doing now or getting ready to add into your fast channels?
Yeah, it's already in place, absolutely. And this is what enables the possibility to have lower audience and better revenue. And that's what Olivier said. That is the primary reason why it's feasible to have all those channels. What we're working on right now is what's next after the fast channels. And we're very keen on personalization. What if you had your own fast channel? Not a thematic fast channel, not necessarily a Western or whatsoever, but my own channel. And how do you program that? With which content? At what time? For what audience? Is my channel going to be similar to Olivier's channels or to Jennifer's channels? And how do we monetize that to the advertisers? And that's a very
It's like the
interesting question.
Spotifyization of fast channels.
Kind of, yes. When you press the radio of, I don't know, Mozart, or what is it going to show?
But you'd want to do the TV equivalent. I guess the
Yes.
challenge there is, well, I guess you could pull it from your own library. I guess ideally you'd want, well, you know, I might want
Yes.
something from Molotov. I might want something from Rakuten. I might want to top that off with something from Pluto.
You have many challenges because some of the content is not free. Do you have the subscription? Do you have the rights to do so? Can we take a content from, let's say, TF1 and then France Télévisions and then from Gulli and then from M6 to create another channel, which is personalized channel? And how do we monetize that? These are the key questions. But ultimately, yes, that's the idea. You press the one button and then you get my channel.
And off you go. That kind of works. I guess with the Paramount library, that's the sort of thing that you could run with, Olivier.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because obviously it's personalization is something which is very important when you run a digital business. But at Pluto, we believe in the power of manual curation. We use data a lot. I mean, the channels editors are not, I mean, you were talking about programming. They're like both data analysts and channels editors because they need to understand what is the best programming and how I change my program on a daily basis to increase the watch time per users, which is the biggest difference with TV. It sometimes takes 6 weeks to change something on TV, you know. In our case, we could take 6 minutes or less. And I think that is very important. But we believe that in order to have those thematic channels, and I think we go in what we were trying to address specific audience, it's important to understand the audience. And an algorithm is reaching sometimes the limit to understand exactly specific audiences. So I think there is probably a mix which needs to be found between which level of personalization and algorithm you put and which level of human expertise, human content expertise you put to really resonate with your audience.
What are the fast channel TV viewers? What do they look like? Young, old, mixed? What times are the, you know, for example, is the peak time for Pluto TV, does that match, say, the peak time for, I don't know, TF1, for the sake of argument?
So there's two questions in that. I mean, the first one, the audience, I think is very broad, and that's the beauty of the fast business. I mean, I tend to say like the target group is the people who grew up with television, so they know what is a linear, but went to the digital business. So that's, if you check that, is like the 20 to 60, 70 years old, more or less, are like potential fast clients. And within the fast, as we go into specific audience, you will have channels which are more for very young audience. We have some, esport channels. Even when, recently we launched an exclusive reality show in partnership with Viaplay in the Nordics. This is it. It is more like this. It's Paradise Hotel, so it's really skewing more young. And when you have a Western channel, it's clearly not a young audience. It's more like 50 plus, I would say. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is address like TV is doing. You were mentioning that it's the box or the TV set. We see Pluto TV as like a TV set in a way. You enter a brand new TV landscape and you have all kind of genre for young demographics, for older demographics. And that.
But are they also people like there's things I've heard in the past, like somebody who subscribes to a subscription movie channel is actually more likely than somebody who doesn't to then buy a pay-per-view movie. So are the fast TV watchers? Have they also got these unused Netflix and Amazon and Discovery subscriptions, or are they more likely not to have those subscriptions?
The majority of our users, based on our market research, have at least 1 or 2 subscription services. So it is clearly complementary. And even in the US, where you think there's this big cord-cutting movement, most of them are still cable subscriber. So it's really like more like complementary to the existing offering. How many subscriptions, I don't know, they do have, but they are like this more digital generation using multiple streaming services. And probably they also have a Spotify subscription. And so, but it's clearly like more like skewing towards this digital generation, but it's big.
Cedric, how do you see it? Does it you run a lot of T-commerce on the Rakuten platform? Are you also seeing those same people who are buying those services? Are they also watching those free fast channels?
So as I was mentioning at the beginning, yes, we really see this as a complementary service. So we see the same people using different kind of service depending on the moment, and so that's also really important for for us to understand who is watching when. We have very close relationship with the advertisers also who are interested in knowing where they want to invest and to whom they're going to talk to, and because we have a very good knowledge on who are our users, that's a way also to monetize better our audience. As Jean-David was saying, because we can target better our ads and our audience, that's a way to ensure that our business model is sustainable and that we can grow. And also, in the case of Rakuten, we also have other businesses in Europe. We have e-commerce business in France. We have Kobo, the e-reader in many countries. So when the users also accept to share their data with us, we can even target better the advertising and also the program. It's not only advertising, obviously, it's also the content we're going to propose. And it's a win-win deal for everybody, for the users, because he gets better content and even more targeted and more relevant ads. And it's also good for the advertisers.
I wanted to ask Olivier about data collection, but I know, Jennifer, you wanted to come in on that as well.
Just quickly about the fast viewer and the AVOD viewer is that with Samsung televisions, we have access to what they call the glass. I don't know if that's some tech term, but so from that we can see 30% of Samsung TV owners are only streaming content. They're only watching fast, they're watching AVOD, they're watching SVOD. I think it's just under 30%. So that could be, that's a very large number that are not going to the traditional linear channels. And that, a Samsung, anybody buys a new television. So it really, I think people sort of assume that the fast viewers are an older generation. It's not, the generations, it's a wide age group that really are watching this side of the business.
And that generation or that set of people who are doing just streaming, are they ending up watching those linear channels but only in the streaming form, be it like a day later, or simply they choose to stream rather than using their terrestrial feed, or however they might have linear delivered?
I think it depends on the country.
Okay.
It really does, because in some countries you do have those channels available in the streaming environment, in others you don't. So it really does depend on the country. But I found it really interesting to see that 30% don't go to sort of their older school sort of model of viewing.
How does the data get collected? Where does the data get collected from? Is it best to do it up in the server, in the cloud, when the shows are being pulled down, or maybe the kind of thing Jennifer's describing when it's taken from the user's TV set? To you, Olivier.
So I think the really important question is, once you have access to this data, is how to use it. And one of the challenges really to do this at scale, when you have, we're talking about personalization. If you take that use case further, potentially you can have hundreds of thousands of millions of different variants that each user is going to be streaming. So this is something that has been, I think, pretty limited in the past. And today there is technology available on the market where you can do this at scale. And this is, some of the benefits that you can get with this, for instance, manifest manipulation technology, where you can leverage this data and automate, the decisioning for linear channels. for the ad insertion and for the distribution. I think this is really one of the key capability that is probably underused at this stage, but I think we really believe into the benefits that it can bring for the end users.
So more data capture. GDPR aficionados, watch out.
Yeah, I think from that standpoint, this is true that it's one of the major concerns, but I think there needs to be some trust, and when someone subscribes to, or starts watching a service, it needs to be explicitly stated. I mean, what this data is going to be, where is it going to end up, how is it going to be used? I think if you make this statement really explicitly, and users are more willing to accept, to go into the personalization.
I guess for the sake of argument, if Jean-David wants to build his personalized playlist, the consumer has to say, yes, please use my data so you can show me stuff I want.
Yes, I mean, it's we are compliant with the GDPR rules, and everybody has. And there are two different things. We have data that comes from the observation of what people are doing, but there are also more interesting data is what people are actually saying to us and saying, I like this show, I want to keep this show on my playlist, I like this actor or personality. And so there are multiple signs that we use to get to know our users.
Let's see if we've got any questions out here for our panel. There is a gentleman over there. Any others I can keep an eye on it? I think there's one possibly over here as well. Let's go over here first, and then we'll go to the center of the room next.
Thank you very much, Julian. Question to all panelists. Olivier Jolet, you referred to a lean-back business. And what is the split for your different platforms between the audience coming from the CTV and the one made on other screens, a mobile, PC, a laptop or tablet? And the other point is about the branding. Currently, you have platforms, the same naming for platforms and for channels, and with a crossing, which make that you can find some Rakuten or Pluto TV channels on Samsung or the opposite. No, not Samsung channels on other platforms. But it's very mixed. And do you think it can create confusion to the consumer, or will it persist? Or what do you think about that?
It's confusing for the moderator, I think. Good question. So first of all, the one on the different platform splits. Cedric, perhaps you'd like to go first.
Yeah, so in our case, we have, so from the beginning, we've had very strong relationship with the TV manufacturers, and we've built our model thanks to we grew along with the TV manufacturers. So the CTV is clearly our main device. We have a branded button on almost all the TVs in Europe. We've had very strong relationship with Samsung also for a long time. That's why it's the device number one, and I would say probably 80-90% of our traffic. And we launched our fast channel on web and mobile only 6 months ago, so it was only available on CTV. Clearly, it's growing. The weight of web and mobile is growing because the usage is really different, fast versus TVOD, which is our original business. The mobility is much more important. People want to, especially the news channel, for example, people want to watch them on smartphone or tablet. So we can see an increase of the weight, but the majority is still connected TV.
And Jean-David?
Well, we started mainly with devices that didn't have any tuner. So laptop, PCs, tablets. But clearly, for the last 3 years, the biggest growth is from connected TVs and connected TV devices, such as Samsung TVs, but also Apple TV, Android TV, all those. And the future is clearly into the connected TVs. I'm a strong believer that the cable box is finished. The cable box are included in the TVs, and what you're doing, you guys at Samsung, is amazing. It's clearly the future of television.
Olivier?
Well, we see most of the usage on TV as well. So, I mean, it's called Pluto TV. You watch TV on the TV set. So I think that's where we see the majority of the consumption. So all devices connected to TV, whether it's a game console, a smart TV, a dongle, or even set-up box. We are on Virgin Media, for example, in the UK, and more to come. So I think we want to reach the users on the big screen. First, because the users that's where they want to watch entertainment, but also from an advertising point of view, that's what advertisers want. That's what we call the CTV inventory, which is in a way like this inventory with the impact of TV ads, with the targetability and measurement of digital. So clearly, it is a big screen business that we're doing.
And do people are often told that the technology is there? I often wonder if people do it. You're on the bus, you've all got home, you're watching Pluto TV. Do people actually then continue watching the same thing on the connected TV, or do they leave it till later?
I mean, they don't watch usually exactly the same. You've got to take a good example about news there. I mean, you probably don't watch like only 20 minutes of a movie in the bus. Not always. So I think that's more probably where people will go to the on-demand section, but less to the fast channel. And we are working, bringing more mobile experience. We have countries where there is a stronger mobile usage. I mean, we're live in Latin America and Brazil. It is like a stronger mobile penetration because of the reach or technical reach from broadband and from smart TV. Connected smart TVs, and so I think there is some differences in the world, but the mobile is important as a way to reach users. It's easier to reach mobile, but more I'm seeing that as a way to acquire users, but to bring them in a living room.
Interesting. I guess, Jennifer, you do some nice TVs, you also do some pretty good mobile phones as well. So does that help pass viewers between one and the other?
I think for here in Europe, it really isn't that much difference. Our viewing
Right.
is from the connected television, but exactly as Olivier is saying, it depends on the country that you're in. So I think Europe is very much advanced. You have more homes that have 2, 3, 4 televisions versus, say, somewhere in Indonesia that might be a single television home. So you see more viewing on mobiles. So I think from a European perspective, it really is a big screen.
And quickly
enjoyment.
to the other points, I'm conscious of that. Wanted to take one more question before we finish. This cross-pollination, which means on my Apple box, I can go to the Sky TV app, and on my Sky box, I can go to the Apple TV app. And it just gets a bit confusing. I don't know if anybody has a particularly strong view on that. Will it even out, or is this just something we're going to have to accept?
Well, people make a difference between the Apple TV device and the Apple Plus streaming service.
Yes, of course. But
I mean, it's a good question around branding. What you're talking about is branding, and people with all these brands, they have to recognize which is what. Netflix is very clear. Whatever device you use it, and same with Molotov or Fubo or Pluto or Rakuten. They know what kind of content they're looking for, whatever device they use for. But the branding is absolutely key. I agree.
And there was another question from somebody round about here. There we go. If we get
over here.
Oh, microphone already. Go ahead, sir.
Hello. I have a basic question about how would you actually create a new fast channel, rather very targeted or more general? I mean, let's say very targeted, like all about the Friends franchise, and then more general family stuff. Is a fast channel typically long-term? I mean, is it something that you want to keep for a year or longer, or is it something that you pop up for a week and then tear down afterwards? And lately, I mean, would you also include other content than, I would say, everything what is in the library since a couple of 10 years?
Oh, gosh, how to create a fast channel? Olivier, please don't tell me you've got a Christmas channel up and running, by the way.
We do have. I think the answer is a little bit of everything what you said. You need like bigger flagship channels, movie channels, powerful blockbuster channels, which will be probably gathering a broader audience, more mainstream. We'll go into very specific niche, and we have. I mean, only this year I think we launched 890 channels, I think, at Pluto across the world. So and I think it's a pretty good number. And some of them are really niche, and they're driving huge engagement. We launched, for example, in partnership with State in France, a great channels dedicated to the LGBTQ community. And at the same time, we also do pop-up channels, whether it's for Halloween. We had like just this last week a specific pop-up channels for the MTV Music Awards, where we had like the 10 years of the last 20 years of MTV Music Awards, and on Sunday at 9 p.m. the live event from Düsseldorf. So, and it's gonna be taken down probably next week. So we're doing Christmas, Halloween, a lot of things. Sometimes, like, I don't know, we may have a specific Tarantino special, and then you have like a month of Tarantino takeover. So it's a little bit of everything, but it is editorial. What we want is make the platform more like there's always something happening on the platform, and that's probably also what is the beauty of the fast business. We can do launch channels, we can fail as well. That's okay to fail. That's okay to test channels and take them down. It's not a big deal. Taking a traditional TV channels down is a big deal. It's a lot of loss.
Yes, just ask
but we can do
BBC3.
that on the fast. So it's a lot of test and learn as well. And that's, I think, what is the beauty, because we have the data.
Cedric, anything you'd add to the mix there?
Yeah, so I fully agree with Olivier about the necessity to have this balance between mainstream channel, niche channel, trendy channel, I would say, like pop-up channel. So the notion of curation is really key. We really need to make sure that the offer we have for our users is relevant. So we need to update regularly. That's why we need to measure the performance of all our channels to make sure that they are still relevant. So it's not just launching a channel and then forget it. It's really a question of making sure that they are still relevant and up to date. So that's part of our expertise also at TV.
Right. I think it's possible we should probably bring things to a close on this particular panel session now. So please join me in showing your appreciation for our panelists.